best albums ever made, and right up there, the top 3 probably.
Despite critical acclaim, God Only Knows was only a minor hit when it was released as a single in 1966.
I love the colorful clothes you wear.
But the next Beach Boys single made an enormous impact, topping the charts later in the same year.
I hear the sound of a gentle wind on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations.
One of the most complex pop songs ever released, Good Vibrations was an elaborate concoction of multi-layered harmonies, rhythm tracks and sound effects. The song was the end product of 6 weeks intensive recording.
We used 6 different studios. I wrote them in sections, and in 6 different studios. Then we strung them all together in one studio, and put all those different parts into one. It's like I'm picking up good vibes. That was one studio, and I love you, colorful clothes. That was in another studio. It all blended together. We put it all together.
Good vibrations, excitation, good vibrations, excitation, good vibrations.
His melodies are timeless. They're somewhat locked in the image of the band, the Beach Boys, and I think they're harder to imagine outside of those performances in the same way as the Beatles songs are, because they're so stylized. They're brilliant arrangements as they are. They're very imprinted with the style of performance, which other songs are not, like the songs of Gershwin aren't, because we don't have his voice. That's the disadvantage of this great 60s songwriters. There isn't the same thought of them being, everybody's property to sing. And actually, some of them are so very difficult to sing, it's impossible.
It wasn't just the Beach Boys and the Beatles who sang in the highly distinctive close harmony style.
One evening down in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, the Four Seasons had a gig at some less than famous and less than lustrous nightclub. It was a bar, it was a joint. There was nobody in the room, and Frankie was a little bit maybe bored, and so he started to imitate Nellie Lutcher, who had had years before a song called I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And so Frankie is doing, I can't give you anything but love, baby. And I go, what is that sound?
Let's hang on to what we got. Don't let go, girl, we got a lot.
Making full use of Frankie Valli's startling falsetto, Bob Crewe and band member Bob Gaudio wrote a string of memorable hits for the Four Seasons.
I was fascinated with their sound. Their harmonies were tight. They sounded black, and yet they were white. I said, go home, and I don't care what you write. Write something with an octave jump that makes Frankie go, so it goes from his regular voice up to that incredible falsetto that he just sang. I said, I don't care what he's singing. Sing bananas. I said, I don't care what you sing.
They
crew never felt threatened by the British invasion.
What a wonderful thing to have that kind of infusion. It was being called an invasion. I was not a bit fearful of it at all. I mean, if anything, it had its own identity, and they went on to do what they could only do, you know, and the seasons kept on going.
But Crew and Gordio's biggest seller was a solo hit for Valley that they sat down to write one day in 1967.
Bobby came over. I said, look, I've got this idea. It goes like this. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I want to hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God is alive. Well, he said, hold it. Hold it. And he said, your concept is great. He said, the lyric is fabulous. He said, but let me forward this a minute. Then he started playing those inversions. You know, I'm getting goosebumps, look, thinking of it. That afternoon, he and I wrote our biggest song, Can't Take My Eyes Off You.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you.
There are about 200 recordings on it, and the song itself was, the announcement was made last year that it's the number 5 most played American song.
In New York, a classically trained songwriting duo were also bringing the X factor to what sounded like easy listening tunes. But composer Burt Bacharach and his lyricist partner Hal David's Midas touch with melodies had brought them big hits in the late 1950s. A decade on, they had acquired a reputation for writing instant classics. They wrote all of their 60s hits in the place that symbolized pre-Beatles pop, the famous Brill Building.
We had a little office with a pretty beat-up piano at no air. The windows didn't open. And Hal smoked in those days nonstop. I didn't smoke. I wasn't as allergic or hated smoke as much as I do now. And we just got through it. Hal kept smoking away, and we kept writing.
He'd have a melody for me that I liked, and he'd put it on a cassette, and I'd take it home, and then after dinner at night, I'd listen to his cassette, and I'd start to try to write a lyric to that. And at night, he would look at my lyric, put it up on the piano, and very often we were writing 3 songs at one time.
I'd like to bring out Dionne Warwick singing Anyone Who Had a Heart.
Burt was not only a wonderful composer, but one of the all-time great arrangers. And as he wrote music, he thought of the whole arrangement at the same time.
Look at me, and though I dream of you, knowing I love you so. Anyone who had a heart would take me in his arms and love me too. You couldn't really have a heart that hurt me like you hurt me and be so untrue.
We were very lucky with Dionne Warwick. because she is such a superb musician. She can do anything. So we weren't limited in what we could write for her. And if you look at the material we've written for her, I mean, it's from A to Z, because she could do it.
If you see me walking down the street and I start to cry each time we meet, walk on by, walk on by, make believe that you don't see the tears, just let me grieve in private, 'cause each time I see you, I'll break down and cry. Walk on by. Stop.
Bacharach was not only a skilled songwriter, but a masterful orchestrator and producer. His arrangements of his own Walk On By and Anyone Who Had a Heart for Dionne Warwick are now regarded as the definitive versions of these much-covered tunes. But one Bacharach and Warwick collaboration may have been improved by someone else.
Better than the version we made. It's great. You know, people change melody. So often that's an advantage, but with Aretha, she changed the melody and made it better.
Aretha Franklin's gospel-style performance brought an extra dimension to I Say a Little Prayer. But the real appeal of Bacharach and David's work was always down to the perfect combination of strong melodies, brilliant arrangements, and subtle, understated lyrics.
Bacharach and David, they weren't, you know, hit cats in the 60s, and like, I'm hazarding a guess that they never used to go out to clubs and take drugs with the rest of them. So where it all came from, I haven't got a clue. But they were fantastic songwriters in its purest sense. That's why they've stood the test of time like no others, you know.
Another style of music to come in from the cold and achieve commercial success during this culturally rich decade was white American folk. Largely ignored in the past, folk became fashionable in the 1960s, thanks mainly to one man.
Oh, my name, it ain't nothing. My age, it means less. The country I come from is called the Midwest. I was taught and brought up there, the laws to abide, and that the land that I live in has God on its side.
In 1965, Bob Dylan took a bold step away from his purest roots towards a more contemporary style, blending folk with rock and roll. But in his career as a politically aware protest singer, he'd attracted a large and loyal following, while influencing even the most successful musicians.
I remember running into George Harrison in L.A., and George said, we kind of had a fight with Bob Dylan. I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't know. Well, Bob was talking to John, and he was saying, man, you guys have this platform, and you're up here, but you should be saying something. And they started writing songs, you know, a little deeper after that.
Dylan led the way for any number of songwriters, myself included. He had the lyrical imagination, but once he fused it with the beat, he opened up the possibility of lots of people, some of them not as talented as him, to follow his lead, but some who were equally talented but utterly different, I don't think could have existed if Dylan hadn't been there first.